Hi everyone, welcome back to Dr. Thomas Fitness. Thanks for stopping by. And today I wanted to talk about cardiovascular fitness. And one of I mentioned this the other day, but one of the reasons why I believe that training with relatively short rest intervals when you're strength training is extremely advantageous. Okay, number one, you're strength training, and you're strength training with loads that are putting tension across the muscles, or placing the muscle under load, whichever muscle you're working, and that causes the muscle mass to increase in strength and muscle size. Um, but also by training with shorter rest intervals, you're um, causing the body to work with more volume, to require and need more oxygen. And so when those muscles need more oxygen to contract and work, we increase our rate of breathing, or our ventilation rate. And also importantly, the heart has to beat faster to deliver blood flow to those working muscles. And the more muscle mass that is involved, the more oxygen that is needed to provide oxygen to those working muscles, okay, to produce energy to cause muscular contraction. Um, and so by training with short rest intervals, you're basically getting a greater cardiovascular response, meaning the heart has to work harder to deliver oxygen and remove some of the byproducts of high intensity exercise. Your breathing rate has to increase, which means your lungs are being pushed. And so we are causing our bodies to get a cardiovascular adaptation along with the muscular adaptation. In other words, we're strengthening our muscles and we're pushing our cardiovascular system. And I do believe strongly that we need to push the cardiovascular system just like we do the muscular system. And so I tend to err, if you listen to my videos, I talk a lot about not so much training for a long period of time, but training really hard. And I think the same could be said about the cardiovascular system. I am a fan of the various, and I know there's been variations of, but the Tabata protocols, where basically you're training with intervals. You're training really high intensity and then you drop off and rest. And then you train high intensity and then rest. There's various ways to do that. But I am a fan of, when you're doing cardiovascular exercise, doing high intensity cardiovascular exercise, because again, we want the heart and the cardiovascular system to be pushed. Therefore, resulting in the heart adapting to that workload. Okay, and one of the main adaptations to pushing the cardiovascular system is the fact that we increase the amount of blood that is ejected from the heart with each beat, and typically we're talking about the left ventricular stroke volume, because that is the left ventricle is responsible for pushing blood to the system, right? So if we're exercising our muscles, we need more oxygen and blood flow to those muscles. So that left ventricle, one of the major adaptations or responses to exercise is that we increase the amount of blood that can be ejected from the heart with each beat. So what does that mean? Well, basically at rest, it means you're going to have a lower resting heart rate, because each time the heart beats, it's ejecting more blood than before you started exercise training. So that's why we see, not always, but usually in highly trained athletes, we can see resting heart rates 40 or below, because their heart is capable of ejecting a ton of blood with each contraction. Okay, so that is one of the major adaptations to exercise. So back to my talk on resistance training and cardiovascular adaptation. Unless you're an elite power lifter, an elite anaerobic athlete, perhaps even an elite athlete, that you need to just train anaerobically, and there are cases for that in the weight room. Um, I think for most general populations, I think you're going to be better off to train with shorter rest intervals. Um, and again, but that is because you're going to get a strong cardiovascular response. Track your heart rate. Make sure that maybe make sure that your average heart rate. If you wear a watch or heart rate monitor, make sure your average heart rate is anywhere from 65 to 75% of your max heart rate. You can calculate your max heart rate. You can Google search that and figure that out on your own. That's beyond the purpose of this video. But I do think that you can benefit greatly from training with relatively short rest intervals, trying to, again, improve the density of your workout. In other words, get more work done in that 30-minute time spot and get your heart rate. Now, let me give you an example. I've done several VO2 max tests in the laboratory where they put you either on a treadmill or a bicycle, and they push you to your highest heart rate. Um, and I at times had a very, very hard time to get to 100% of my predicted heart rate. But you give me a set of dumbbells and do walking lunges or stationary lunges, and even pull ups, with relatively short rest intervals, and I'm going to reach pretty close to my max heart rate rapidly. Okay, everybody's slightly different, but anyway, I want to demonstrate to you that you can get a very much a cardiovascular response from strength training, especially if you limit those rest intervals, and then get all of the benefits of the strength training as well. So I love strength training that way. I like to get in and out of the gym. I don't have, and no one, I mean, time is always the element that's important, but I do think you can train with short rest intervals, get all the muscular benefits, all the strength benefits, and also get the cardiovascular benefits as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you have a great week.